joining us from Westminster, a supporter, Gillian Keegan, of the government.
Yes.
And what do you make of people like Jacob Rees-Mogg who say now is the time for the Prime Minister to admit defeat and resign?
Well, I like Jacob very much, but I guess sore loser is probably how I'd put it. I mean, it's you can't say that you have a vote and then you don't respect it. I mean, it's beyond belief. So I can't. There's no logic in his argument, and I speak to Jacob a lot, but I've kind of lost the plot of his logic now. I don't think there's any grounds for that. We had a vote yesterday. It was very well executed. We woke up in the morning, found out there was a leadership challenge. We went to bed at night, and it was all finished. So that is conclusive. We do not need to be changing Prime Minister at this point. We need to be backing the Prime Minister, getting behind her as a country. It's the EU she's negotiating with, and everybody here seems to forget that. We need to support her to make sure she gets the best deal for our country.
But the problem that you've got, that the Prime Minister's got, that the government's got, is unless people like Jacob Rees-Mogg budge, and there's no sign they're going to, she's just not going to get this deal through Parliament, is she?
If you looked at everything that everyone said and all the numbers, there is absolutely no deal that can get through Parliament. Every single approach, including the people's vote, is checkmated. So if you listen to what people said and you took it on face value, then basically you would think nothing can get through Parliament. But of course, I've spent 30 years doing negotiating in the commercial world. It's not the same. What people say and what they eventually end up doing when they know what actual choices they've got are often different. So I think the only option now is to get improvement on the Irish backstop, which a lot of people, if you read all of the Hansard reports of the 3 days that we did have of the debate, a lot of people said if you get rid of that Irish backstop, or you make sure it's temporary and there's some way that we can be sure that it is only temporary if we ever have to go into it, then that's the basis for more people wanting to support the deal. But you're right, the way that the parties and the countries are divided, there will need to be some people that look at this deal, which by the way is a really good deal for our country, and they'll look at that and say, I'm going to put the country's interests first and I'm going to vote for it.
Now, the backstop is part of the withdrawal agreement, the 585-page withdrawal agreement, and the European Union has been quite firm that that's not going to be changed at this stage, bearing in mind that it was agreed here at the end of November. So would any piece of paper that doesn't actually change the fundamentals be sufficient, do you think?
Well, in the commercial world, it would be. I mean, you'd have some kind of an addendum or a side letter, etc. I think that's been used before in relation to EU treaties. So I guess we're not the pioneers of this. There have been these changes made before. So, but it does have to satisfy people that it has some kind of legal relevance. So
where do you think the UK is going to be vis-à-vis the European Union on the 30th of March 2019?
Well, OK, if you put this into context, I think there's a reason that no other countries have left the EU. If you look at this Article 50, the whole thing puts a risk on the leaving party. And that's just how it's structured. So we have to decide as a country, we've had the vote, they voted to leave, we want to honour the referendum. Parliament needs to get behind what is a better deal than all the others that are being discussed, whether it's Norway deal or a Canada deal, etc. It is a better agreement than all of those. I'm hoping that Parliament rises to that challenge. But I can see why people would look at, some of the things that are said in Parliament and believe that that may not be the case. We, at the moment, are on the no-deal path until we get a deal, so we have to do something, and Parliament will have to work together to avoid that.
Gillian Keegan, thank you very much indeed for joining us from Westminster.